Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next episode of Television Terrors, where myself and Noni Townshend take a look at television paranormal, horror, supernatural entertainments. And today we are looking at an animated show. We are looking at Courage the Cowardly Dog, and this was one of Noni's suggestions. So Noni, before we kind of get into the episodes, tell us about Courage.
So Courage was a Cartoon Network show from the late 90s to the early 2000s. It was technically a show I was not allowed to watch. It and Ed, Edd and Eddy, my mum thought were too disturbing, and so I was technically banned from watching them. But I still did, and it definitely gave me nightmares.
So one of the things I noticed about this, I didn't watch it when it was first run, which, you know, I was in the age group, I guess, I would have watched it. 16, I guess, is still within the age group for...
I was about to be like, yeah, that's because you were basically 30 when it came out, but I'm joking, I love you.
So it reminded me, I'm guessing was this on Cartoon Network?
Yeah.
Because this reminded me in the style, it reminded me of things like Cow and Chicken and I Am Weasel.
Yeah, it was basically one of those that kind of family of sometimes kind of gross, often very surreal kind of cartoons.
So not quite as gross and surreal as Ren and Stimpy, but kind of the level below.
Yeah, it was,
of the style. So I never saw it when it first came out, so I'm really glad that you suggested it. And we haven't watched the entire show because there are 4 seasons of it.
I did rewatch literally half of it though. When I was picking the episodes, I rewatched literally half of it.
Well, I think we can have a bit of an extended discussion on some of the episodes I didn't get a chance to watch.
Yeah.
But the ones that you did send me to watch, there were, I think, 6 or 7 halves and 1 full episode.
So it was 5. So within the entire show, every episode but 2 was like 2 parts. Mm-hmm. So most of the episodes are like 2 different 10-minute episodes, and then one of the ones I sent to you, The Mask, was a 20-minute, and then The Tower of Dr. Zolost was another 20-minute. I nearly added that one to the list, but then I was like, that would have put it too much over, and I didn't want to sacrifice any of the other episodes.
Right.
So that's one of the honorary mentions, because that's also fantastic.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Out of all the episodes that we went with, what made you choose these ones for us to specifically focus on?
I knew from the start that there were 2 that were definitely going to go in. Specifically, King Ramses' Curse, because that's the one that like really gave me nightmares as a kid. The wavy hand and Return the Slab genuinely terrified me. And also The Great Facility was another one that really scared me when I was younger, and that I would like. Those 2 episodes were basically most of what I remembered that I could like call to mind, having not seen it in nearly 2 decades.
I enjoyed both of those. I enjoyed all the episodes that you sent through, and I will, I think, at some point sit down and watch the entire show. Say episode 1 was also one of the episodes to watch was the very first half of the very first episode, which was A Night at the Cat's Motel.
Yes.
And for me, that was an interesting introduction to the world of Courage, because I wasn't quite sure what to expect going in, having never seen it before. I love the supporting characters, Eustace and Muriel.
Yes.
Eustace...
Her accent's a bit dodgy in the first episode. It gets better.
Yes.
But it's... I thought she was Irish for like the first few episodes.
I thought she was Scottish. Was she meant to be Scottish?
Yeah, she is meant to be Scottish. That does come up in a couple of episodes that I didn't send to you. It's like pretty explicit. But I thought her accent was Irish in Cat's Motel. I think because I'm used to hearing actual Scottish accents, like hearing a bad fake one, I immediately be like, that can't be Scottish, but it's definitely trying to be something.
Yeah, I wasn't sure at first. So when I was making my notes, I wrote down Muriel nice to see she's Scottish. And then a few episodes later I wrote down, or is she? So I think Eustace, even though the character is clearly in his 60s or 70s, so would now be in his 80s or 90s, so, you know, he's a little older, he does have some real boomer energy, doesn't he?
Yep. Yeah. Oh, there's definitely this sort of like wife bad boomer humor in him.
Yeah, despite the fact that he is 20 years older than the boomer generation now. He's the greatest generation, I think they were called. But yes, there's some real boomer energy to Eustace. And what I liked was, I obviously introduction to the show, not knowing which type of characters might recur or might not recur. It was nice seeing this take. Essentially, this was a take, very, very loosely, obviously, on Bates Motel. That was where the idea of Cat's Motel, I guess, came from. There are a good few episodes that are really obvious riffs on famous horror films. There is another one which draws very heavily from The Exorcist. Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
I liked the fact that it went into a different direction than what they could have done if they were purely spoofing Bates Motel. I liked the use of the spiders and just the ridiculous Looney Tune style humour.
Yes! Yeah. It does do a really good job at like introducing a lot of things. And I think that one of the things that Courage always did really well was even though like if you look at it now, it does have the sort of low quality kind of animation, it still had such strong designs. And I think a lot of the ways in which it kind of did try and cut corners with the very empty environments and the sort of superimposed textures that you see in a lot of the rooms just kind of add to that uncanny feel, which I quite like. There's something that feels off about the design, but in a way that really jives with the kind of...
There's a surreal element to it, a juxtaposition there with it. It's just, it really does... It's just quite common again with the cartoons of that era, of this quite eclectic look to things. And if you as well look at some of the angles that are used and the design directions, I guess you can trace back to things like Cabinet of Dr. Caligari 100 years ago, that type of surrealist, heightened Gothic style that you kind of see with the way drawings were done, especially in the late 90s. So I really liked the episode. I thought it was a nice introduction.
Plus Cat's, his musical theme is just... Basically every episode I wrote down the music, though. Because I think that's one thing Courage does really well, but I specifically really like Cat's theme.
One thing I will say about Cats is, I'm guessing there was an intentional decision because it's something that crops up throughout the episodes I saw. He's English. The villain is English, which is quite common.
I do like a lot of the villains' voice acting in this. Like, they seem to pretty consistently get some pretty good villain acting. But absolutely, he's English.
all of the villains throughout this that we saw, all of the antagonists, were very, very well performed. Fred though, yes, that was the second episode 2. Fred, that was an odd one. So
no, that's episode 4.
It's episode 4, but it's episode 2 that was on our list.
Sorry, I'm being pedantic.
That's fine. So with Fred, Freaky Fred, did you ever see Drop Dead Fred?
No.
You should watch it. It's a Rick Mayall film with Phoebe Cates and...
I'm thinking of the wrong one. Oh, no, it's the one with the imaginary friend. I think I watched the Nostalgia Critic review of it. It's a great remember movie.
It's a ridiculous movie. That's very worth watching. Carrie Fisher's in it. It's a great film, but it kind of made me think of of him, just with his hair and just his general look, made me think of Drop Dead Fred, and obviously with English accent as well. And the Fred episode was weird. Like there was an
with the poetry in that.
There was an unsettling creepiness to just the fact that he was shaving people.
It's so weirdly benign whilst also being incredibly sinister.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if someone snuck into your house just to shave you in your sleep.
Don't like that. No. That's gonna give me nightmares.
Yeah.
But plus his design with the big smile and the stillness. It's so unsettling.
Do you know what it reminds me of a little bit? South Park animation. He reminded me a little bit of South Park animation with his slightly non-smooth, very, very still animation style. It reminded me a little bit of South Park. It was just very weird, and I'm not sure what horror trope that, I guess, comes from. This is not a specific one, not a film or television or anything. But it seems to be an original character.
Yeah, definitely just like uncanny valley sort of thing.
But it's this idea that horror and horror villains, kind of the weirder they are, the scarier they are. Like the fact that he was shaving people. If he was like stabbing people, that'd be like, okay, that's scary.
It wouldn't be as scary.
That's fine. It wouldn't. It's because what he's doing is so kind of harmless, but also deeply psychological disturbing.
It's a deeply personal thing.
Yes, that's it. It's a very deeply personal invasion.
Again, some of the sound design in that is really good as well, which super added to it.
Yeah.
There was like the kind of sort of creepy kids singing.
So one of the things that it also reminded me of with that big grin was Dr. Seuss.
Yeah. No, now that I think about it, like that one. Do you remember the sort of old animated Grinch?
Yeah, I know the one you mean.
With that, you can probably picture the exact shot I'm thinking of.
Yeah. One of the things with this episode made me think of, because this was the second one that I saw, how much of what is being experienced, how much of what is going on is actually going on compared to Courage's point of view on it.
Yeah, so there has been like a kind of, so you know how a lot of the time cartoons get those really dark theories about them, like Ed, Ed and Eddie is actually set in purgatory kind of thing, and I tend not to like them because they're so like, or Rugrats, and it's like actually Angela's just really lonely and invents all these kids, and the twins were actually a stillborn baby. Or like a miscarried baby. Yeah,
because they didn't know whether it was going to be a boy or a girl baby.
So she imagines twins. And it's like, I don't like those. I don't like those things where they try and take a kid's show and make it like dark and edgy. But there is this really popular theory going around that's been going around for years and years and years about Courage, which I'm actually a little bit fond of. I don't think it super holds up. In the context of like other episodes, but in some it definitely does. That the entire show is just a dog being afraid of normal things and just completely extrapolating it inside of his own head.
Yeah, I kind of like that. And as you say, there are a few episodes, especially even in the run that I watched, there are a few episodes that doesn't quite work out. But certainly at this point in my watch through, I was like, is this just him exaggerating it? Is this what he's seeing? And I like that actually. It adds a maturity to the show that the show has anyway, because it does have a certain level of maturity to it, but it adds an even deeper level, I think. And I think now that type of thing is very much overdone. But in '99, it still would have been quite unique. Because I mean, Fight Club had only just come out and The Sixth Sense had only just come out, so this idea of it all either being in the protagonist's head or it being a different experience for the protagonist was still fairly new.
That sort of the idea of a twist that completely recontextualizes what you are seeing.
Yeah.
And that was still something that was super new.
And I think that would work quite well within this, for some of the episodes at least. The Freaky Fred episode. One thing I did particularly like, actually, and this comes up in another episode, is when Muriel's watching the TV, the television is actually showing film footage. It's not animated. It's just film that's been spliced in, and that was just something that I really quite liked.
Oh yeah, it's pretty consistent throughout the whole show that unless they're watching a news segment, the TV, to the best of my memory, is always like it's either live action or is kind of photographed stop motion or puppetry. They're the only times you see them watching the telly, and it's animated in the same style as when they're watching the news. And there are also a fair few bits where the animation style itself changes, and you'll have like either CGI or stop motion segments, which a couple of which did come up in the episodes
I noticed
sent
that
you
in one of the later episodes.
Which is
really good. We'll talk about that when we get to the episode in question, because I really did like that.
So Barbara, the girlfriend that Fred shaved, shows up as a background character in at least one of the other episodes.
Okay.
Like just like wandering down a street, which I think is kind of cool. And the thing that I meant to look up and that I looked up just before we started, in A Night at the Cat's Motel, the guest book is crew names in it.
I did wonder, because I had a look at those, and I did wonder if those names actually had any relevance or were a reference to something. So I was wondering if they were kind of play on horror characters or something. But no, that's good to know. So the next episode, I think, might have been my favourite out of the ones that you sent me, and this was Ramsay's Curse.
King Ramsay's Curse. Yep, the one that gave me nightmares.
King Ramsay's Curse. Everything about it really, really popped. The sound design was fantastic, but
that just one random song halfway through.
The whole thing was just so wonderful to watch, and really, really unsettling when Ramses is out in the outside. He's basically, give me back the slab.
Return the slab.
Return the slab.
That has been burned into my mind since I was like, how old would I have been? That was 98.
6.
So I'd have been like, I wouldn't have watched it when it first aired, but I would have been like 6 by the time I saw it.
Yeah.
So
it was so good. It was just, and that spectre out there that sends the 3 curses is just so unnerving and unsettling.
Yeah, especially because he's CGI.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was something off about him visually. Yes, that makes sense.
One thing about that episode that I did find kind of interesting, and if I'm remembering correctly, I think it's the first episode that does this, or it's one of the very early ones that does this, is that Eugene's just dead at the end.
Yes.
Like they do this a lot, where episodes will end with characters dead or transformed, and that doesn't, like, there isn't continuity in between any of the episodes. There's no continuity other than like maybe characters reappearing occasionally, but even then it's kind of ambiguous whether Courage even recognizes them. It's like Katz does show up again, but it's not made explicit if Courage is just scared of him because he's scared of everything, or because he remembers. And I think that it's quite interesting, and it kind of plays into the sort of unpredictability of the show, because you don't have that normal cartoon assurance that everyone's going to be fine.
Yes. And that was really obvious in this episode because it ends with Eustace in Ramesses' tomb on the tablet, and what I kind of liked about this was his insistence on holding onto the tablet at all costs, even at the cost of his own safety. Like when the flood comes and he's just underwater, holding onto the tablet as tight as he can.
Yeah.
It's
a really unnerving image.
Well, what that reminded me of was it felt a little Dickens with the whole "you'll be visited by three curses."
Yeah.
And that was kind of what I thought they were kind of going with at first, but then just the way it played out, you've got the water, you've got the music, and you've got the locusts. And the music was just such a weird one.
It was so bizarre, but kind of weirdly charming. But also that song just gets in your head.
Oh god, yeah.
Like, it's so catchy.
I quite liked the British explorer chap who turns up for a scene to try and get the slab back. Very, this quintessential British explorer with his big moustache and his pith helmet. Yeah.
He's ridiculous, and I love it.
Yeah.
But, he's fun.
So, what I liked about the music itself, in that it was a very 90s modern dance piece of music that was playing. This is why Eustace and Muriel are particularly aggrieved by it. It's modern music and
it's terrifying.
Yeah, and I guess I don't know what you'd have today in its place, but
probably dubstep.
Maybe, yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Like dubstep's still kind of early 2010s, kind of. Yeah. Oh, so popular but so bad kind of thing.
Yeah. What are the?
Oh no! This what the old people hate at the moment is mumble rap. It would be mumble rap.
To be fair, I can understand that. Oh god, I'm old.
Yeah. I could hear the realization there.
In my day, it was Dre and Snoop and Slim. None of this modern Machine Gun Kelly. What type of name is Machine Gun Kelly?
I will be personally offended if that is not in the final. Okay, I'm really glad that you watched that and were also just entirely bemused by it.
Yes.
And just thought it was really bizarre, because I was there being like, I love this. This is ridiculous. But I was also a little bit afraid that I was missing a joke.
No, I think out of all of the ones I watched, I think this was my favourite, because I think they were all great, but I think this one just really, it was just very unsettling and very unnerving as an episode, and I thought it was enjoyable fun from the get-go, and it was just great. It was good.
It was a good balance between comedy and unsettling.
And I can understand why as a kid you would have been quite unnerved by that and quite unsettled by it. So the next episode that you suggested we watch was one of your other favourites. The Great Fusilli, which was the crocodile magician. Yeah.
Well, I think he's meant to be more of like an actor-director.
Yes.
But like cursed.
Yes, a theatrical. What I loved about it was he has his own travelling caravan that pulls out to be a stage and audience seating area, and I think I've seen things like that in the real world.
Did you really want it?
I really want it. I really do. It'd be great. I could just travel around the country, set it up, and perform, and it would be fantastic. Teresa can drive. I can perform. It would be brilliant. Yeah, it's just I will become a travelling snake oil entertainer.
Yeah, you're not selling people the snake oil. You're selling them the experience to learn that the snake oil is bullshit.
Exactly. So that's what I'm going to do. That is my career calling, and I think in this modern world, you could pull up somewhere and you could effectively socially distance as you do this. I think it's
important.
I think it's the entertainment for the plague world.
Okay. Okay.
So tell me about this episode then, because you said this was one of those other episodes that really stayed with you.
Yeah, so I just remember the kind of the image of the puppet strings coming down from the comedy tragedy masks.
When they
and then
that
last, the turning into puppets, and then just the last kind of image of Courage puppeting them into normality. That was just so, like, even by Courage the Cowardly Dog standards, that was a bleak ending.
It really was, wasn't it? It was really...
Yeah.
Everything about that. I mean, marionettes, there's something genuinely scary and unsettling about them. And I know a few people who are scared of them. The Alice in Wonderland adaptation that I am at some point going to do, if I have time to write it, if only I was in a situation where I had ample time. But one of them is...
If only.
I know. When Alice shrinks, I'm going to have her controlling a marionette of herself.
Cute. I like that.
But it's...
I'm using cute to mean good, not adorable.
Yeah, no.
For clarity.
Yeah. It reminds me just of the fact that some people are scared of marionettes and puppets. And one of the things I kind of got from this show is... Quite
possibly because of that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are.
It's aimed at the kind of age bracket where they don't know what fear is yet.
Yeah.
That's what Courage the Cowardly Dog was. It was for teaching children fear.
Yep. It was just a genuinely unsettling thing. And seeing them become marionettes, seeing them become puppets was just really unpleasant. And because it takes away your agency, it takes away your individuality, it takes away who you are, and you become literally a puppet. And there's something very, very scary about that. And it seems that a lot of the time, Courage, for the episodes I've seen, don't necessarily need to go for the all-out horror element like they did with cats and spiders, and like they did with the mummy, Ramses. But some of the stuff like this, and like with Freaky Fred, they're very, very mundane things, very, very kind of everyday type things, like shaving your head.
Or I mean, Perfect as well.
Oh gosh, yes, where everyone has that feeling of fear when it comes to perfection. Everyone wants to be perfect. And that one really, as a millennial working in the arts, that one, the episode Perfect, really did speak to me. But everything about the Great Fusilli was just, again, beautiful from beginning to end. Everything that it did so well, and it was genuinely creepy. And I can imagine and understand people leaving that episode being unnerved and developing their brand new fear of puppets because of it.
And probably also theatres in general.
So
maybe that's why theatre is a dying art. It's just...
Yeah.
I saw that episode as a kid and we're like, I'm never going there.
Of the right age group. Yeah, I guess. So.
It is definitely one of the more quietly unnerving episodes, especially with regards to like the end.
Yeah, that was a really bleak ending, like you say. So the next episode you showed me was
The Mask.
I'm going to be honest. Out of all the episodes I watched tonight, this was possibly my least favourite.
That's fair.
Primarily because it didn't quite feel as horror. It didn't quite feel as horror as the rest. I mean, there's at the beginning when the mask appears, it's really quite unnerving and unsettling. But then it very quickly changes into more of a thriller than a horror, I think.
So there were a couple of reasons why I did pick this one, even though it wasn't super scary. So the first part is that I genuinely find it quite interesting that in this show that is so bizarre and surreal and over the top, there is literally an episode where Courage helps a woman escape an abusive relationship to be with her girlfriend, and the only bit of that I'm stretching is they've got those big rainbow air quotes best friend thing at the end.
Yeah.
And I just find that I don't know. I really like this episode, but also because there's no confirmation of this, but when this episode aired, they got a lot of complaints about the kind of implied homosexuality, and there are rumors that this was the reason why it wasn't renewed for another season afterwards.
Okay.
Because people were really mad that there might have been a lesbian.
I mean,
two lesbians.
2001. Yeah, this would have been 2001, wouldn't it? So yeah, I can see that. I think that's an important part of the episode. I think that's makes it a good episode in that regard. For me, it didn't quite touch on the horror points that the rest of the episode managed to so successfully do. There was nothing in it that was fearful, unless of course you were extremely right-wing evangelical, in which case the idea of gay relationships is terrifying. So maybe this was a horror
what gay
episode
relationships?
for that group.
They're just gal pals.
Best friends.
Best
I mean, they're not even the same species. I liked it, and I guess I can see what they were doing with it. As a horror episode, it didn't really do anything for me, but I thought as a story, I mean, this is one of the episodes I think could fit quite easily into a cow and chicken type episode. It's not quite out horror, it's just weird and surreal in places, and that's not a criticism of it at all. It was a great episode. It's still a very good episode,
in my opinion, but it's less horror than a lot of the other ones were.
Yeah, and that's my only kind of complaint about it, is I think that's why it was my least favourite, is because it didn't quite tick the horror boxes for me. But I think it was really important if you looked at it as a pro same-sex story.
It's one of the few queer-coded queer-coded characters in that kind of era of children's media that weren't also the villain.
Yes. Because of course we have that quite prominently, that anyone queer-coded tends to be the bad guy.
So to have them that be someone who's very, very, very obviously in a kind of queer-coded relationship with a thin sort of veneer of censorship on top, be like a protagonist and meant to be like the good guys. That was interesting to me, and that's why I felt that it was like an important one to talk about.
Yeah.
But also the fact that Courage the Cowardly Dog dealt with domestic abuse in a way that was like really real.
Yeah, it feels like one of those episodes that you kind of need a little epilogue at the end of the central character talking to the camera with and if you've experienced anything like this, children, boys and girls, then you can phone this helpline, and
because they didn't do it with the same sort of cartoon violence that a lot of the rest of the show has. No. It's that was actually genuinely like just a toxic, abusive person, and it was like really real. Yeah,
it was a very different episode, and
and then he just gets hit by a fucking train.
Yeah, it just wasn't my favourite in terms of the horror aesthetic, but in terms of a story, and it seems really important that they had the full 22 minutes as well to focus on, and it was definitely the right decision, and I think for the time quite an important and brave position for them to take, because as you say, it could well have cost them a 5th season. So the last episode that we watched was actually the last episode. And it was the second half of the last episode, so it was the last story in the world of Courage. And we touched upon it briefly earlier. It's Perfect. And what's scary about Perfect is how it perfectly reflects how many people feel. And it took Courage's view of themselves, And when it plays out, the nightmarish dreams that Courage is having, what I particularly loved was how it did it in different styles. So you have a 3D CGI bit, and
which
you have
very strange.
Yeah, and you have the Wizard of Oz bit as well, where he's all of the characters, including the Wicked Witch of the West. And then you also have my favourite bit, which was the stop motion bit. And I saw it, and I immediately thought I wanted to see an entire episode done like this.
So there is a very, very short clip in a different episode called Courage in the Big Stinking City, which also has like a brief stop motion element in it. And I do love when Courage kind of dips into that kind of animation style, because it just seems to really work. Whenever they've done it, it's always really worked.
Oh yes, absolutely. I've always loved stop motion animation. I am a huge fan of the work of Ray Harryhausen. Jason the Argonauts is one of my favourite films purely for the stop motion sequences.
Oh yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of the film outside of that, but because of the work Harryhausen did on that, I particularly love the film. Even though it kind of ends before it feels like it should end. It's like it's missing 10 minutes. But I love that work, and stop motion when done can be done really well creepily. Like there is do you know Jan Svankmajer?
No.
So he's a Eastern European filmmaker and animator, and he did the 1988 Alice, where a lot of the characters within it are stop motion, and the white rabbit is specifically a taxidermy white rabbit that comes to life. It's so unsettling. Stop motion is fantastic work, and I loved seeing it in this. It really was nice, even though it was like a little 2-second clip. It was really beautiful to see.
I think having, especially because the alternate animation styles were used in the context of Courage having nightmares, I think that really helped capture the idea of dreaming and having a nightmare. Because it wasn't just weird stuff's happening. It was like the entire universe was fundamentally different because of that different animation style. Yeah. Which I thought was really good. I think... So I know I didn't send you it as one to watch, but I think that I would quite like to mention the context of the other episode that was paired with that one.
Yeah, sure, go.
So the one that was paired with that one for the very last episode was, I think it was called In Remembrance of Courage Past, or words to that effect. And that whole episode is essentially Courage needs to go to the vet for something, but whilst he's going to the vet, he's also having like an extended flashback of how he ended up with Eustace and Muriel from like when he went to the vet as a kid, and the vet like kidnapping his parents for some like dog breeding thing on Mars or the moon or something. Yeah. But I felt that it was quite interesting that for their last ever episodes, they decided to do these two that were, while still having these kind of fantastical elements and these surreal elements, they decided to focus on two stories that were very much more character-centered.
Yes.
Because that's not something that the show often did. So, like, the characters all had pretty basic kind of character traits. But they were never really characters to be explored. They were characters to experience a situation.
Yeah.
Whereas for those last two, you had Courage kind of coming to terms with his own parents' disappearance, and sort of deciding to fight to stay with his new family. And also then that episode of him examining like the idea of being a perfectionist and insecurity that whole thing as well, and the idea of like creativity versus perfection. Which I thought was a very interesting choice to end the series on.
Yeah. I wonder if they knew they weren't getting a 5th season when they made the decision of what to air in. I really enjoyed the snapshots that I saw, and I will be watching the rest of the show. It was nice seeing horror done in children's animation. Yeah. Because it has been... They've taken horror ideas before, but I hadn't really seen much since maybe a decade before that, when we had shows like Duckula and Trapdoor. Trapdoor more overly horror themed than I guess Duckula, but Duckula has that whole vampire aesthetic.
Yeah.
And this was nice to see that there was something that was carrying on that horror tradition. And playing
in a way that was
with.
Yeah. It was like in a way that's kid friendly, but doesn't pull its punches or talk down.
Yes, some of the best children's television is children's television that actually works for adults as well. And this definitely does, because there were things in it that, again, with the Best Friends episode, which was released horror themed, but it's definitely got an adult eye for it and a children's eye for it. So kids watching it will see it as two best friends. Adults will see it and understand the subtext to it.
And then apparently write a complaint letter to Cartoon Network.
Yes. And I guess children as well would be able to go, I have a best friend as well that I really, really am friendly with, and might provide a conversation point that could be very important in the development of a young person. I really thought
also sorry.
No, go on.
What I'm saying definitely isn't going to make it into the... I was going to say, if you Google Kitty and Bunny, like, you do not have to go far to find one of that. Because I was trying to find the screen cap, like a screen cap of the bit at the end, so I could send it to someone and be like, oh yeah, best friends, with this like very overtly romantic hug that was happening. And I was just scrolling down because there was also some just like generally pretty good fan art. And then I was like, oh no, that's porn, I am done now. But yeah, sorry, you were saying something that was genuinely on topic.
So
before I interrupted it with
I think the show took an interesting idea with taking Courage as the central character, and essentially allowing us to experience things through Courage's eyes. Because I think, having now watched a few episodes, I can understand why the idea of it all being from his view is a popular thought. But I kind of think maybe it's a mix. Maybe some of these things are happening, and some of the supernatural elements are happening, but they are still being shown through Courage's interpretation of them as well. So we're getting a little bit of both worlds. We're getting the it's in his mind, but also it is happening to some degree.
I was going to say that there was one element that I was really sad I couldn't show you, which is like a recurring element of the computer.
Yes.
Who kind of has that, the sort of sassy, insulting butler, like kind of vibe. Does that make sense? Like the computer talks. The computer is English, and just kind of will go, "Oh, you're asking this, you idiot." Anyway, here's the information you need. And I'm just going to say that when you do watch the whole thing, you will love the computer. But he just ended up not in any of the episodes that I was showing.
That's cool. I will give the whole thing a watch, because the whole thing was fascinating. So I enjoyed Courage the Cowardly Dog, and I'm very pleased that you showed it to me. And I think it is something that I am going to go back to, and I am going to watch more of. It's something that I missed the first time round. But I think it's something that can still, in 2020, 21 years later, stand up. And especially it's in a style that I particularly liked, with the whole cow and chicken and I am Weasel.
I would like to add a couple of honourable mentions, because it is such a good show that trying to pick just like an hour or so worth of episodes was really, really difficult. But either of the episodes that contain zombie director Quentin Tarantino, there's The Snowman Cometh, that has a Sean Connery evil snowman. There's The Nutcracker, for being the best piece of like children's animation set to ballet ever. The Gods Must Be Goosey, because there's a buff goose Zeus that falls in love with Muriel, then goes all nice guy when he gets rejected, and then falls in love with Eustace's truck instead, and they get married. And then just a whole bunch. Oh, there are so many episodes I wanted to put in so bad. But basically, The House of Discontent, which is terrifying and has like a big creepy face in it. And also Little Muriel were two of my favorites that I couldn't put in. But so I just wanted to throw those out there very quickly.
So I think once I have watched the entire series, it may be worthwhile coming back to have a kind of wrap-up chat of the show.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, definitely. I will go back and I will watch the other half of the episodes that I haven't seen yet. Or haven't seen since I was yay big.
I'm sorry I'm having to put you through that.
Oh, I will suffer for this, I guess.
Suffer for your art.
Yeah.
So, Noni, thank you very much for joining me in this discussion of Courage. Noni, thank you very much for joining me in this discussion of Courage the Cowardly Dog. Noni, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and I'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, then you can support us by heading over to patreon.com/noisyghost ents.